We back, we lit. We're gonna be talking about some good information here. Just having a discussion with my wife. Like I say, with tomorrow we're gonna do tomorrow not the Galactic Family. I'm thinking about tomorrow we're gonna do the other two installments. We're gonna do one tomorrow and probably one Thursday. The installments on the Anarchy tapes. We now moving to streaming yard. We getting off of Zoom. Zoom ain't no good no more, man. My wife Ben told me, and I don't see nobody on Zoom. I don't see nobody on Zoom no more using Zoom. Most everybody using streaming yard. So they chop. So look, I can show my video now. So like, I should have my other laptop by Saturday, and then we're gonna be on streaming yard from that point on. But we got a hot topic for you tonight. Since Hakeem took us a nap today, we're able to be up a little late with you. Now I got on a little late because we just had to do a little running, me and my wife. But I'm back now, and we're gonna talk to you about several books. This is the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. This is one of the books that we're gonna be talking from today. The Pawns in the Game by William Guy. Right? This is another perspective that we're going to be talking from tonight. Behold the Pale Horse. It's one of the perspectives. And the 48 Laws of Power. I forgot to get that off the shelf, but it's back there. The Black Hand. The book that we're going to be talking about. And the Black Conquistadors. Right? All these books are going to tie in together. Now, what I want to say is that for the last couple of days, I've been going and doing research on. That's why I've been off for the last couple of days. I've been doing research on what they study at Harvard and Yale. What are the curriculums and the academics at the guys that go to Harvard and Yale? What do they study? Right? So we know that in they summer classes, they take lecture classes where they read a novel or a book. And this is one of the books that they teach them. They read a novel or book, right? And then they do an essay on it, 25 pages. They got to write their own. You read the book and they give a summary from their perspective of what the book is saying. And they write 25 pages on it. So these kids at this, once I started studying, looking at the books that they had to read and do essays on, I started to think to myself, the books, and a lot of this is books that I'm showing you, especially the 48 Laws of Power. They got to do a 25 page essay on the 48 Laws of Power in college, right? So I'm thinking to myself, hey, what I'm going to do with my sons, fourth grade, they gotta be reading the 48 Laws of Power and all the books that they read at Harvard. My kids I'm gonna make them write essays, 3-4 page essays in the third grade on these books and then reading them. So I'm studying. I'm sitting up there studying, and I'm saying, okay, these guys. If you look at the books that they read, it's really giving them an ideology on the social construct. It's like they training them mentally to be front man or these politicians or these lawyers or the people that's in control of the guys at the head of the system, not the guys that's running the system, but these guys that running the system are training these guys at Harvard and Yale so when they get out, they can know the social construct of of what's going on the land. Like they teach them books about like the books that they read, like Moby Dick, right? People think Moby Dick, they let Moby Dick. They got to do an essay on Moby Dick. That's one of the. What I did is I went on there and I pulled up the top 100 books that they got to read at Harvard. And we want all those books. We want all the top 100 books that they got to read at Harvard. We want those books. And a lot of them, I was surprised that I already got a lot of them in my library already. I already got a lot of them. That's why we pulled them out. I was like, dang, they studied this in college, 48 Laws of Power. They study The Invisible Man, The Visible Man, those books. Then we got those books, The Invisible Man, 48 Laws of Power. They had to do an essay on the Prince of Machiavelli. I got that book. The Prince of Machiavelli. They had to do an essay on that book. It's a real thing. And I was watching a class. They was making a fun of a guy, and they said that, yeah, you should have got something. They like it was like the second day of class when they got the book, and they was like, oh yeah, you should have finished the book already because it ain't nothing but a couple pages. Like they made fun of like the book is real because it's real small book, right? And they had to write like a 25-page essay. Damn, there more pages in the book on Prince of Machiavelli. So I'm saying, damn, so they studying Prince of Machiavelli in college? These are Harvard, Yale guys? So I'm starting to put it together, man. These guys are being trained to run the average people, the masses. They're being trained to run the masses. They being trained to know the real game. And I don't think, you know what I think? A lot of those kids that go to Harvard, they probably take their education serious, but I don't think they know what level of information that these people are putting them on when they got them doing these different papers and essays on these books about how the world is ran. How the world is ran. The world is ran through, let me go back, because it's all going to tie in together. All right. So you know about the people that call themselves Jews, the Jewish people, right? Which are really Canaanites. And they really are servants to a group of Africans who we trace back to being conquistadors, black conquistadors, and dirty Moors, which is they really Hamites. The people, keep in mind, we got a tape out called How the Slave Trade Was Fake. But keep in mind, Africans were being kidnapped and sold by somebody, mostly by these dirty Moors who were Africans. Yeah, go watch. I just watched that movie the other day, yesterday. That Queen, the Woman King, or whatever the name of that movie was, the Woman Queen with the black Africans, and how these dark skinned Moors, with the beards and shit, was coming to take their people and sell them. Take their people and sell them to the Portuguese, right? But let me go back. All right, so if you go back and read the Bible, for my Bible guys that's watching, in the Bible in Genesis chapter 10, and we're gonna tie all this in together with the Anunnaki tape. We're gonna do 11 and 12 where we tell you about the connection with Noah, the pole shift, and all that. We'll get into that on tomorrow on 11. Right, I got the slides already put together. I was gonna do it tonight, but it's really I want to do it at like 6:30 tomorrow. Okay. So these Noah had 3 sons that were triplets: Ham, Shem, and Japheth. They were all triplets born at the same time. Okay. What happens is the story, Genesis chapter 9, where Ham looks at his father and a certain type of way, and because of this, his father Noah, eating a fish tune, cursed him. He said he cursed his fourth generation, or his son, Canaan. Right? He says, "Cursed be Canaan." Excuse me. "Cursed be Canaan, a servant shall he be unto his brothers." So, and keep in mind, Canaan was born as an albino with blonde hair. It talks about this in Leviticus chapter 13, verse 34, and 13, verse 30. Leviticus 13, verse 30, where it says they had yellow, thin hair. That's blonde hair. And they had different, light eyes with the eyebrows, blonde. And then that wasn't that was a defect, but that wasn't a disease that they didn't label that as a disease. They labeled the part where, because these people that have melanin, when they went in the sun, they would get these red burnt spots, right? Like a red, like a rose, and spots like a leopard. So they called it leprosy, right? Leprosy, right? And so they pronounced them people unclean, the people that used to get the skin cancer, right? They get skin cancer with the red spots. You see them some days these days. All right, but those people became, it was 12 sons and 1 daughter. One of the sons were called Jebusites, the Jebusites. The Jebusites are the ones who you call them the Jewish people. The servers, and it's a couple tribes over. We already broke that down too. In the Bible tapes, the mysteries of the Bible revealed tapes. Go back and check them tapes out. Right. So he had Canaan had 12 sons and one daughter, or 11 sons and one daughter. 11 sons and one daughter, I think. Okay. So those sons took over the area you call in Jerusalem today. They ended up migrating and taking over that area. But the main people was the Jebusites, who are you calling the Jews, the people that the Jewish people. But these people were servants to, keep in mind, Canaan would be servants to the Hamites. Who are the Hamites? The Libyans, the Cushites, these different African tribes, right? Which is really like the Hebrews teach. This is really different from the Shamites. The Shamites is where Jacob come from, and Abraham and the line go down from them, from Sham. But the Hamites were the other brother, and these people mixed in with these dark-skinned Moors. These are beings from Ur or Chaldea. One who's of Chaldea is what Moor really means. It's a Akkadian word, which means one who's of Chaldea. That's what it means. It don't mean navigator. Although these beings, you could say it from some perspective, it mean navigator, because these beings did have the knowledge of the stars. They was on Mars. They were extraterrestrials. So they had the knowledge of the stars to be able to use the stars to travel. And they were builders. They knew how to lay stone, right? And they knew how to do astrological layouts of buildings. These 200 fallen Gigis. Right, they legend in Aura, who became known as the Muur Moors. And keep this in mind: there was only a small species of them that were the more classified as like a humanoid type. It was like freaky looking beings mixed up, like two-headed beings and all that landed too with the 200 fallen. So it wasn't just no humanoid dark-skinned beings that were the leaders. Shamgazu and them, Hala and them. They were the leaders of these beings, right? So, but I'm speeding up to the point where these Africans, and I don't mean all Africans. When I say this, it was just a specific group who were dirty Moors, who were harassing the other Africans to sell their people. They started selling their people, and not only did they play us over here, they played the Africans over there. So now let's go back. Let me give you a little history of this game to put this together, this plot. All right, because me and Raw was talking about today. And by the way, Raw gonna be on tomorrow with me at 8:30. So get your questions ready. We're gonna do an open Q&A tomorrow with the brother Rod Hayes. So be in tune for that at 8:30 to 8:30 tomorrow, Wednesday night. That's what I was gonna say. All right, so people don't know. I hear a lot of people talk, even people that's old school cats that been in the game a long time, and we don't blame them because now we got more technology. But when these cats were doing their research, it wasn't even no internet. They had to go to the Library of Congress, to some library, or actually get boots on the ground to do the research. Now we got the internet, so we could get to access. And thanks to those guys too, who were pioneers in the game, they gave the information, and so now we're able to use what they got and to expound on the research, right? Because we got more platforms and ways to get this information, right? So a lot of that's one thing that they missing when the Moors talk about what they talk about. One thing they missing is, and some Moors might know this. I know Dr. Al Bay. That's one of the high dollar scholars as far as the Moor science. Dr. I think I'm saying his name now, Al Bay. We shouted him out on the channel before. But the part that they missing is that King George III, pretty much all the way up to King George III and his family, they were Moors. And the Moors controlled Great Britain. Great Britain is the Moorish Empire. Great Britain means the Great Covenant. What covenant? The covenant is the Moorish Empire. Right? And these people, the people that ran was the royal family of the house who were Moors, were Afar people. King George bloodline goes back to Palestine. Palestine was controlled by the Afar people. Right? Now listen to this. The Afar people are Moors. Why? Because they mixed in with the people who the tribe of Shabazz who came who left. See, it was a. All right, let me go back. All right, so it was a part of these Hindus who landed in Aura who were Asiatic black man. The real Asiatic black man. The real Asiatic black man had straight hair. The original Asiatic black man, dark skin, blacker than us. See, we not really black. We like copper tone, reddish, brownish tone. Us natives over here in America, our species. These beings are black, like this hat black. These beings are black, for real black. They like, if you look at that, you can put this down in this hat to their skin and down there match. These are the beings I'm telling you about. They look like us, but they're not us. They got the dark black skin like this, right? Hold on. So these beings, it was a being named Shabazar, Elijah Muhammad referred to him as Shabazz, right? He disagreed with Yaku, and him and 59,900 other followers left with him on a boat. They built boats and sailed and left where Yaku was, and they sailed around Africa jumping off. One spot they jumped off at is where Ethiopia is at. And they mixed in with the Nubians who were there and created whole new tribes, like the Afar people. Imhotep was from this tribe. Imhotep was a Moor. Why? Because he was mixed with the tribe of Shabazz. The Afar people are mixed with Hindu. The Somalians, they Hindu, part Hindu. Muhammad, he was part Hindu. Abraham, Hindus, they part of these beings from Chaldea, or Chaldea, these fire 200 fallen niggas. I'm telling you, man. So, what happens is, leading back up to this point. So, like I said, so the pyramid style buildings and all that is really influenced from these Anunnakis, which is really the 200 fraction of them, the Igigis, who actually had the pyramid style building technology, and Imhotep is a part of that bloodline through the Moors and the people that was already here mixing in. So Imhotep, the people that's in the ancient Egyptian culture that studied saying that Imhotep built the oldest pyramid on the planet, man, they were behind. They behind because Imhotep was a Moor. Imhotep was a Moor. So they they forget about the Moor part when they start talking about the building of the first pyramid. So if Imhotep built the first pyramid, that means the first pyramid was built by Moors, because Imhotep was a Moor. M-U-U-R Moor. Now I know M-O-O Moor, they come later when the French get a hold of it. I'm talking about the Akkadian. M-U, one who's of, as in Musalam, one who's of peace. Right? Now, check this. Okay, so we just want to make that part. So, but these people, that was Afar people, Imhotep's people, his mother's people, they was in that land called Palestine, which now they trying to say parts of it is Israel and this and that. Those people, Frederick Williams, remember I told you about the Williams. King George's name was King George William III. So his dad's name was Frederick Williams. His dad, if you go pull up his dad was from Palestine. He was Afar. His mama was a Bantu from Germany. The Bantu people was in Germany. The Bantu people was in Germany during the time of Adolf Hitler and before, thousands of years before Adolf Hitler. Go get a book called The Black German Holocaust. King George's mama was a Bantu lady. The Bantu migrated to Germany. They was in Germany for thousands of years. So King George's mama was a bloodline for the Bantu in Germany, and his dad was from the raw bloodline from the Palestinians, from these Afar people. They had a son. This son later on, because I think Frederick's, or it was maybe been his mother. She was the daughter or the son of the heir in the British Empire. All right. So King George come from the Moors, the Afar people. King George III, his whole bloodline, the Bantu and the Afar people. Now let's go back to King George I, who was a Moor. King George I was a Moor. They show you they made everybody white. They took our whole everybody that was they made everybody white so they could lose us in the South, man. I'm telling you. And let me explain to you what happens. Because we already broke this down on the King George tape, but we're gonna go to it a little bit more depth. And King George now can be considered as dirty Moors. At one point because of how but I don't think they were considered as dirty. I just think that they was greed. Greed took people out. Greed got people set up, man, and made everything crazy. In 1715, is when the Caucasians really started getting the leg up, right? Because what happens is it was a guy named Mansa Musa who had a brother named Abu Bakr II. Abu Bakr II was coming over here too, right? First, he came over here first and landed in Central America, where the Aztecs mistaked him for the return of Quetzalcoatl, who is really referring to Inky, and they end up turning the gold over to this dude, Abu Bakr. Speeds up to Mansa Musa getting parts of the gold and becoming, they said that Mansa Musa became the richest man in the world. But in actuality, his brother, Abu Bakr, had more gold than he had. He just gave his brother half of what he had. Then he still had a stash over here, which he stashed in a mountain called, they call it today, it's called the Black Hills. They call it today Mount Rushmore, as in Rush the Moors, right? Rush the Moors. Right, it's all gonna come together for you in a minute. But Mansa Musa ended up going back. And he had a whole bunch of gold. He ended up stepping on the gold, what we call in the street stepping on it. I mean, mixing it with bronze or another thing to make coins out of it and make silver, gold dollar bills or gold coins, so he can spread the wealth. He came and went to ancient Kemet, and then the he damn near caused inflation in ancient Kemet because he had brought so much gold and bought so many books. And he hired scholars and masons and architects and designers and teachers and people who were linguistics. And he brought all of them back to Timbuktu and set up a school in Timbuktu. Right, it's right here, and I'm leading up to when the Caucasians got a leg up. In Timbuktu, right? They said he set up a school, which is still right now there today, right? He just put up a school in the temple in Timbuktu, built by Mansa Musa, right? This is where the Caucasians come in and start to learn a little bit about the masonry. Now, we didn't, as Hyksos, we didn't teach them nothing. They didn't never get past fellow craftsmen. Right, we can go into that story too with Akmos and Kokmos and Sukhentare To, who was hit the builder that was hit in the head 3 times by the 3 ruffians, or the 3 assassins is what ruffians mean, right? But when they start coming to Timbuktu, they were messengers for these Moors who had stole 11 tablets, as Dr. Ben, we got Dr. Ben books too. People say, man, why you talking about Dr. Ben? You with Malachi. See, they want to keep us fighting against each other, and they never want us to keep us to connect and tie all the information in. Tie what Dr. Ben said in with Malachi. Tie what Dr. Clark said in with Malachi. Tie what Dr. Phil Valentine say. Dr. All these doctors, Bobby Hemmett, Khalid Muhammad, Farrakhan, Elijah, tie all of it in together to make it together. That's instead of trying to use one information against the other. Dr. Ben was a specialist in just specifically in ancient Egyptian and African science. So he got more of a better, deep in look on African science. Even though Malachi taught it too, but Malachi just taught a whole bunch of stuff. He mastered a whole bunch of stuff, but Dr. Ben focused just on Africa. So he got more in. He can go in more in detail on the African shit than Malachi. Malachi could have probably went in just like him, but I'm saying it's Malachi told us this. He told us that you can be a master over one thing, you'll be better at that one thing than to master a whole bunch of things like he did. Right? So he was just trying to start us out, give us a whole kick start on all these different avenues. So, but Dr. Ben is exclusive in the ancient Egyptian culture. And I actually studied with Ashwa, who is a student, not personally with him, but I studied his teachings, Ashwa, teachings. He was a student of Dr. Ben, right? So shout out Dr. RP Dr. Ben, shout out Ashwa. To me, he a doctor. And he got boots on the ground. Back to what I'm saying though. Okay, so in Timbuktu, this is when the Caucasians start getting hired by these Moors. Because keep in mind, the Moors started the first slave trade. And they wasn't trading Nubians and other Moors. They were trading Caucasians. The truth is truth, man. And it really started with pimping. Pimping started the slave trade. Pimping, I repeat, pimping, prostitution started the slave trade. I got a book over here called Night in the Moorish Harlem. We can get that out too and show you. So what happens is, like I got to go all the way back to give you this, at least this part, so you can figure out why these Caucasians were coming to Timbuktu as messengers for these Moors. And we had to teach. The Moors were teaching them certain handshakes, so when they got to the city, they could shake these other Moors' hand, and they'll know what level they was on as far as their doctrine, right? So, cause they pulled them in and gave them their chapel in 1717. They got their chapel from Timbuktu, but it was Moors that got that chapel, not Caucasians. And the England Lodge was ran by Moors all the way up into the 1800s. It was ran by the England Grand Lodge, was ran by Moors all the way up into the 1800s. And the 1717 is when they got their chapel from Timbuktu now. From the Moors in Timbuktu, who had the 11 tablets from ancient Kemet, like Dr. Ben said. Okay, and they got 22 more tablets, and that's when they set up the Scottish Rites, 33 degrees and all that crap, right? Okay, so I got to go back to this part of how they still servants now. Keep in mind, we still going back to a servant shall he be unto his brother. The plot. Keep in mind, we talking about the plot and the puns. The puns in the game. And the behold the pale horse and the black hand is all these books I'm talking through all these books when I'm telling you right now. Okay? And there's other books that I should have pulled out too, but just mainly these books right here. In 900 BC, the Moors got a bright idea that they can go kidnap Caucasian women from the caves in Georgia and the Caucasus Mountains, and then bring them back to their cities. And it's actually what the guys that were buying these Caucasian women, they actually wasn't going out to catch them. They had slave catchers or catchers, what they call catchers. They rode camels. They were Moors who rode camels into the Caucasus Mountains and went out there roping these Caucasian like wild horses, the women. And then a man would try to fight them, but they didn't really know much. And the Moors just would behead them, chop their head off and take their women. And then they would tie the women's up and walk them, blindfold them and all that, tie them up and walk them back to the camps. And then they would take them back in town and auction them off on auction blocks. This is before Nubians ever got sold. So that's why I'm telling you, when we get down to it, we're going to have to call it even with the Caucasians, because you Moors did them first. 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times worse than they ever did to you. The truth is truth, bro. I'm going to tell you. So y'all were taking these Caucasians, women, and putting them on slave blocks and auctioning them out to other Moors who had the money, and they were bidding on them and buying them, and then they would buy them, and then they would bring them back to the house mother. The house mother would be a Moorish woman who was good, like a new personal hygiene, all that. She became known as the madam. Later, they became known as the madam. later. And keep in mind, Ishtar been doing the pimp game. Ishtar was the first pimp in the game on Earth. She was the first pimp. I'm telling you, Ishtar. She wasn't really a pimp. I can't really say pimp because she wouldn't look at it like that. She was just doing her thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's just words we use down here. But they used to have these women on ropes and leashes, take them to the auction block and sell them off over this right here like 900 BC. And so they would buy them. I got the book, Night in the Moorish Harlem. They would take them back, wash them, clean them, scrub them, cut their hair, clip them, put perfume on them, put them on a nice dress, and then they will use them as pretty much sex toys for a little while. And then when they get tired of them, they just put them in this Harlem where their friends could come by and just make whoopee with them and do things with them. And then eventually these Moors, these dirty Moors who were coming and making whoopee with all these Caucasian women at these Harlems, they start giving them tips, like a coin or something. All right, so when they start giving them tips, the first Moor that was up on the game, he came up in there. He was like the pimp. He was like a pimp. They dressed just like the pimps dress now. It's how the Moors dressed back then, with the suit hat, the feathers, the suit with the top, with the knickerbocker pants and all that, with the gaiters. They had a fixed up wagon with gold wheels and velvet interior in it. And they had the girls, and they have player balls and all that. Back in 900 BC, man, you ain't doing nothing new. Okay, so what happens is they start giving them money, tips, and the more of the house who owned the home, he'll come back and see if they had some money, and he'll take it. He'll take it. He didn't want them to have nothing because he didn't want them to have no money to escape or do it, try to get away, right? Disappear. So they'll take everything from them. And then the Moor said, okay, then I can start getting money off of this. So they started charging dudes to come to the Harlem. And they started making money. Once they saw, okay, I'm making a killing. Sex pays a lot. I'm making a killing off of this. I got 3-4 girls. Imagine if I had 100 girls or 25 girls. How much money could I make off of this? So they started paying these chechas to go get more Caucasian women and bring them to the Harlem so they can make more money. It was all about greed, more money. To where some of the women, they start to look good. They start to look fair to these Moors. Fair and fine or sexy. Some about them. They looked different from the ones they were used to. And the Moorish women in the bed wouldn't do all the nasty stuff that these freaky Moors wanted to do. Some of the freaky Moors, they wouldn't do all the Nubian woman, a lot of them went into all the extra stuff. But these Caucasian women, they was down for whatever the master told them. So some of them started falling in love with them and bringing them actually into the house and actually having kids with them. These kids that they birthed became known as what you call mulattoes. So a lot of people that say they white, they really mulattoes, like the Italians. Y'all ain't nothing but mulattoes. No respect, no disrespect. But you Italians, y'all mulattoes. You got black hair, right? Black, dark, you got dark eyes with black hair, you a mulatto. In order to be technically a Caucasian, you got to have blonde hair and blue eyes, right? Some of y'all might be Georgians mixed with Caucasians or Frugaloids. But if you so all my white brothers out there, yeah, that's right. I said brothers. All you white saying y'all white, all my white brothers, no sweat, brother. You ain't no white dude. You a mulatto. You a albino. Right? You just in the same boat. But what you need to do is you check your blood type, because you might be type O. And if you're type O, come on, man, put it together. Racism is put on by the Enlil. Enlil want to keep us fighting against each other, keep us hating each other because of the color of our skin. Which why him and his boys put the play on Martin Luther King when he said, judge a man not by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. Nigga, we try the spirit by the spirit to see whether they from God or not. You know what I'm saying? Straight up, we try the spirit by the spirit. So we're going to go check your spirit, and we see how your spirit is a good spirit. right? Because we deal with malevolence too, and malevolence can be utilized in a good way. But we check their spirits to see whether they're from God or not. You know what I'm saying? Straight up. And then he goes on to say, yo, that God come in flesh, and whoever don't agree to that could be working for the Antichrist. So when I come to tell you I'm God in flesh, and so are you, and whoever disagree with that, according to the Bible, right, for my Bible guys, could be the Antichrist. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you. I'm telling you, straight up. So back to what I was saying, because I don't want to get sidetracked. Eventually they start having children by these people. And some of them couldn't produce children. They was only having children amongst the Caucasian women. So they was only producing mulattoes. And they were wealthy Moors. They were wealthy Moors. That's how they took over France. They were wealthy Moors. Queen Isabella was a mulatto. The lady that her and Fernando, her boyfriend, it was, I think it was her cousin as well, because these people married into each other to keep the bloodline tight. They were mulattoes that raided Granada in 1492, took over Granada. And they really didn't even raid. It's pretty much he had to hand it over because they caught him with his pants down. Why? Because in the dogma of Islam, you got to pray 5 times a day. So if I know you a Muslim and I know when you're going to pray, all I got to do is catch you slipping when you're praying. And I can just be right up on you and boom, there you go. That's the game. But let me go back. So the rich Moors end up passing their money and wealth down to the mulattoes because they're the only children that they had with these Caucasians. And the Caucasian women were tricky because they had already been taught trickology by Yaku. So they know how to wiggle their wind, turn this one against that one. Pretty much get rid of the Moorish woman out the house because they make her look like she going against what's been going down. Turn the man against her. Kick the white Nubian woman out. So that they can get, so and the story happens over and over again in the Bible. What happened, the story is played out in the Bible with the birthrights of Jacob. Jacob getting the birthrights of Esau. Right? So once they get the mulattoes get in there and get the money and they kick the Nubians out, boom, they take the birthrights, steal the birthrights. Boom. So now they come into power of who running the game now. All right, speed back up to 1715 because I had to give you the game on how it was going. We already got tapes breaking all that down. Let's go to the playlist. Go to scroll down to the Rise of the Moors playlist, and we got all that breaking down. Just giving you a synopsis to speed you up to the point of what I'm telling you, what they teach people at Harvard and Yale, and how these people know the game, and they are built to be the front man or the servants of servants to their brother. The servants, they send all their servants to Harvard and Yale, right? To be the front mans, be the face for us to point the finger at, while the guys that's in the background of these guys. Right, buddy, get to that. It says, how can you prove that it's in Atlantis? What you mean? How can I prove what is in Atlantis? How can I prove what is in Atlantis? Because that's like off the topic. I wasn't even talking about Atlantis. How can I prove what is in Atlantis? Gabriel. How can I prove the oldest pyramids in Atlantis? I never said that, but if I could say, if I had to do my history on it, man, I say a lot of the pyramids, especially the stepstone type pyramids, are built around about the same time when the Igigis came. When the Igigis, because the Olmecs wasn't building no pyramids. The Olmecs was over here thousands of years before the pyramids, if not millions before the pyramids. The pyramids didn't come into the Moors. The 200 Igigis came. They the one brought the pyramid style. Now we was building ziggurats. The Anunnakis were building ziggurats, the Anunnakis, but the Olmecs really wasn't doing no stone work like that. I'm telling you, man. We lived off nature. more off nature. The brick work and concrete work comes from these 200 Igigi niggas, the Moors, who were stone masons. They really was the real original masons, these 200 fallen Igigis. That's why they was put on Mars to build way stations on Mars. They were the one, Anzu was the one that was a master builder building the dome cities, these Moors. They built dome cities underwater and above ground. And I think that the pyramids, I know that the pointy style pyramids, Ningazita is the one that did design layouts for that after the pole shift. After the pole shift, they came back and Ningazita put those pyramids for weights to keep the earth from flipping again. So I don't think it's gonna be none other pole shift because I think Ningazita prevented that when they did all the weights, put all the pyramids in certain locations. You got to keep in mind those pyramids weigh tons, millions of tons. It's taken by if you move millions of, and what the reason why the planet shifts is because the Anunnakis were taking minerals from the earth in certain locations. So if they lowering the weight, making the weight go down in a certain locations, it caused the planet to tilt. So these people, those elements, the elements that they taking from the planet, a lot of it is not meant to leave the planet. It's meant to be utilized on the planet. So when they start removing elements from the planet, that's another good breaking galactic law. We shouldn't have made no deal. The Dragonians shouldn't have made a deal with the Anunnakis because taking gold from the planet or taking this element, even though it can be taking too much at one time, can be dangerous because it actually comes from the sun. The sun can regenerate this gold and these different minerals. So it's an endless supply as long as the sun is going. But to remove a large amount of time because they had an emergency to go for their planet Riz and their Nubaru, they needed the gold for the atmosphere. So they had an emergency. So they started removing large amounts of gold real fast. It caused our planet to flip. Right. So we ain't gonna, but Ningazita and them was important. Some of them bricks for the pyramids don't even come from Earth. Niggas don't even know that, bro. Because they were building pyramids on Mars too. A lot of that bricks come from Mars. A lot of the bricks for the pyramids, some of them come from Mars, the bottom ones. I'm telling you, man. The dirt, the clay from these 200 fallens niggas, man. And they built them for actually like these like charging stations for plasma energy. And so under the bottom of the pyramid, I might got sidetracked, man, but we just really going in. They study at Harvard Yale though. Under the pyramid, they put magnetic granite rock, and they built a water chamber to run over the rock, so they created static electricity. And they got a chamber where they sends up that chamber. Then they got these crystals set up in the top of the chamber. Then they had a gold capstone. They had the limestone on the outside. We actually gonna do a tape on the breakdown of the building of the pyramids. But I'm getting sidetracked with the Atlantis thing. I'll probably do another tape on it. I got a tape called Atlantis, but I just really go into the story of it. I ain't really going into how Atlantis was built by Ningazita. And it was Ningazita and Murdoch was building Murdoch and Nana. Those three were instrumental over here in Inky. They were instrumental on this side on building setting up the civilization and stuff like that as far as the humans. What difference does it make? He says, where is the oldest pyramid on Earth? Hey, man, to be honest with you, I don't know, man. But like I said, if I had to say with the oldest pyramid, if I had to say the oldest pyramid, I would say Imhotep's pyramid. But now, this is what I think too, though. I would say the Imhotep pyramid is the oldest. Now, this is what I would say, though. I would say that those pyramids over here, that's stepstone like built, they were built almost about around the same time. I believe these pyramids was all built around the same time. I believe that the ones over here were built maybe a couple years, less than 100 years after Imhotep's pyramid. I believe those, and they line about the dates out here just to keep us threw off about that we was all over the planet at the same time. And the African culture was selling all around the world, sharing all the same information. That we was on both sides of the water, and we was sharing information. We was always selling and trading information the whole time. And the building of the pyramids was going on both sides of the water at the same time. And I believe Imhotep pyramid. This is my, like I said, this is my perspective. Imhotep pyramid could have been built first, and then like less than 100 years later, those pyramids over here were built. Now the hugest pyramid, or the most acreage pyramid, is in America. So that's a fact too. Like I said, that the biggest pyramid is 40 acres, I think. Imagine you don't know how big an acre is, man. Imagine how big 1 acre is. Now imagine a pyramid that's 40 acres. Nigga, that's crazy. 40 acres of pyramid, that's crazy, bro. Them guys, man, that's how you build a 40-acre pyramid, now, nigga. 1 acre is crazy. 2 acres is crazy. 3 acres is crazy. 40 acres pyramid, my nigga. Yeah. Like some people perspective, they set up all the pyramids in America. It might be pyramids. Now I think that it's pyramids in America that are older, that's underground, because it's pyramids that's underground that they don't want to tell us about, especially up in South Dakota. So it's underground. We got underground cities and things that they didn't took over now and turned into today's cities. These elites, these these learned elders of Zion, right? But let me go back. I don't want to get sidetracked, man. The pyramid gonna have to be another tape. This one I'm going to talk about. 1715. Leading up to now, speeding up to the mulattoes taking over, 1492, mulatto, Queen Isabella taking over. 1715, King George I, who was a Moor. Not a mixed Moor, a real Moor. Real Moor, a far nigga. He was far, right? They started capturing some of these Caucasian men that started they started bringing them into the land too. And eventually, it was a lot of, because they were poor and they were they weren't civilized like that. They were causing a lot of crime and things in the civilized community of the Moors. So the Moors created prisons. The Moors created the first prisons in overseas, in the Middle East and in London. Hey, shout out to brother Commando Swan. It says Antarctica has the old. Yeah, and that could be true too, brother Antarctica, because there's a pyramids in Antarctica they won't even tell you about. That could be true too. And they call the Anunnakis call Antarctica the Great Below. The Great Below. Right? The Great Below. Now I'm gonna tell you this. The pyramid. Now this might throw you for a loop. But I'm not trying to throw you for a loop, but just what I know based on my research, that the pyramids in the Giza could be older than Imhotep's pyramid. Why? Because Ningazita built them right into the age of Leo. During the age of Leo, that's why they got they put that Sphinx there. It represents the age of Leo. And the first person face that was on it was Ningazita's. And then later, Inky came back and took his face down and put those might have been Murdoch's face first. Might have been Murdoch or Ningazita's face first. Then they took his face down, and then in remembrance of Osiris or Damuzi getting murdered, they changed the face to Osiris' face. But those pyramids at Giza, supposedly according to Zachariah Stitcher, and I'm not saying I believe everything Zachariah Stitcher saying. I'm just saying according to him, Ningazita and them designed the pyramids after the Earth had the pole shift. And those pyramids were actually built before Imhotep was even born. Those pointy pyramids in Giza was actually built before Imhotep was even born. So we can look at that perspective. Check that out. You know what I'm saying? So, and then they said that, Dr. Ben them come later and say, and that's why crazy saying that Khufu and Khafre and them built it. But my master teacher said that them boys only remodeled it or renovated it. Kept it in good condition where it can last longer, because they actually were devices that were used to power certain technology in ancient Kemet, right? That Tahuti and Murdoch, Ningazita and Murdoch, his brother built. So you could say that. So you got that perspective as well. You could gain that the pyramids of the Giza is actually older than Imhotep pyramid, and Imhotep was just a half humanoid, half extraterrestrial through his father Enki. Yeah, Imhotep is Enki's son. People don't know that. Ptah. Ptah's Enki. Enki's Imhotep was half extraterrestrial, half human. That's why he stood out amongst everybody else. And his mother was a Afar. So you can say that Imhotep, as a humanoid, half hybrid being, was trying to reiterate what the gods had already did. The gods had, so-called gods, Ningazita and them had already built the pyramids as weights. And what Imhotep was trying to do is show the gods that he a god too, though, that he got the information and necessary knowledge to regenerate the same type pyramid. So he first started stacking master boxes on top of each other. Because at first they were just building master boxes, which was just one level of a stepstone pyramid where they buried their people in. Right? So you can look at that. That's just a perspective. Now I'm not saying that that's right and nigga that's the 100% truth. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's just another perspective on it. It's pyramids in China, right? They just said that they might predate some of the pyramids in ancient Egypt. So you got to look at the whole dialect of it. But I don't want to get sidetracked on the pyramid, like I said. What I'm talking about is in 1715, King George the first. And keep in mind, Buckingham Palace was built by King George's grandmother, who was a Nubian woman, a Moor. The Moors built Buckingham Palace. That all gold coach that the Queen used to ride around in, there was a Moors riding around in it before. I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna break down to you how Queen Elizabeth and them usurped. Well, it really wasn't Queen Elizabeth; it was her great grandmother, her grandmother. Queen Victoria. They usurped King George, not the Moors. They usurped the Rothschild, usurped the Moors, and replaced the Moors with the Queen Victoria. All right, now let me break this down. Keep in mind, the Great British Empire had control over a lot of territory. They controlled Egypt. They had the Moors had raided Egypt and took over Egypt. The Moors took ancient Kemet from the people that was there. The Moors took parts of Sudan from the Sudanese that was there, even caused a split in their land where now it's a South and a North Sudan. Because one people went with the Muslim Moors and another people went with the Christian Moors because there was two fractions. And keep in mind that King George and them were Christian Moors, not Muslim Moors. You got the Islamic Moors, and then you got the Christian Moors, which is coming from Ethiopia, the ones that me and Rod chased from Ethiopia, who went to Transylvania, who went to Rome, set up these dark Moors who set up the Roman Catholic Church. And then they went to France, got kicked out of there, went to Switzerland. We traced them back to El Madrid. They then tried to sneak back into France, got kicked out of there because they was messing with the kids. Then they traced them to Barbados and the Caribbean islands. Then we traced them to New Orleans, New York. Then we traced them all the way. They got upstate New York, and then traced them to Jersey. Then we traced them to Utah, where they try to hide as known as the Mormons. And then we traced, these are Inlilites. And then we traced them to Hollywood, right? So we've been tracing them for a while. When they took over Hollywood, we got a tape called Dirty Moors Take Over Hollywood. Go check that out with me and Rod Hayes. Okay, well, we're going back. All right, so King George them in 1715, all these Caucasians who were criminals, they created these prisons and they was putting them in prisons. Well, the prisons became overflowed. They didn't have enough prisons to hold these people. And they, like I said, they already control all this land. They control all part of Australia, the Moorish Empire included Australia, parts of South Africa, Sudan, Ethiopia, Egypt. The 13 colonies is at in the United States, they control that part of the land. Canada, some parts of South America, the islands, the British Empire. Just go online and type in what land did the the Great Britain Empire control. And it's all gonna tie in together with you when you see why Queen Victoria was there, why the Mahdi was trying to stop Queen Victoria in this new fraction of the British that was in control of their land. He was trying to get his land back. The Mahdi in Sudan. right? Against in the 1800s against these dirty Moors who now were usurped by mulattoes who were Deru mulattoes. At that. Okay, I ain't repeat myself. I'm just coming back to where I'm at. So they owned all this land, right? And so they needed slaves to work this land. So because the other Moors, they were lazy, they didn't want to work the land. They need this land to be worked, whether it be cotton, tobacco, and so they set up a company called the British Indian Trading Company, right? King George and them, the British Indian Trading Company, and the first cargo were slaves because they needed the slaves to work the land, but the first slaves were Caucasians. Hold up, let me get this book for you. Let me get this book for you real quick. Okay, this book right here. All right. This is a book right here by Dame Calloway. Right? The story was told in reverse. You see, you got the dark skinned beings with the Caucasians and slaves on there. Hold on, I can't see the screen. All right, so it's about Dame Calloway, right? The story. I got a couple books on this particular subject, but you see how you got the dark skinned guys and these other guys as slaves, because these were, you see how black them guys is. These are the same guys, right? And but not the same guys, but similar. They really the same guys, but these guys were actually some of the conquistadors were Knights of Templar. So we got to break that part down because the Knights of Templar came over here too. Okay, so 1715, they started getting the prisons overrun. King George I came out with a bright idea. He said, hey, we could take some of these prisoners, right? And we can start taking them to the farmland and they can work for their freedom. So instead of just spending their lifetime in prison, they can go and work on our plantation for 7 or 8 years, or how much time they got in prison, and then we'll free them. And once we free them, this was the promise. We'll give them 40 acres of the mule. They told them before they told you. King George and them told them that they when they were gonna get out of jail, they were gonna give them a certain amount of land and some mules so they can have their own land. Right? This is before they even told you this. Bro, you already had land. You weren't worried about no 40 acres in the mule. You niggas was already natives. Y'all already had land. Y'all was already doing your thing. But this what they told these Caucasians. So the first thing they did, they said, okay, we got land in South Africa. Let's take them to South Africa. So they started unloading the jails of these criminals and taking them as on a work release program type thing to South Africa. So people was wondering, how did Caucasians get in South Africa? And they saying that they natives to South Africa. No, you're not natives. You are Caucasians who got took to South Africa by Moors to work on the plantations. So all these white people that's in South Africa, they were slaves to the Moors. One. All right. Then they said the Africans got mad and say, man, y'all got to stop bringing these people over here. So they said, all right, we got the land in Australia. Let's take them down to Australia. So they started taking people to Australia. That's how you get the Crocodile Dundees in Australia who got a British accent. They got a British accent in Australia. How does that happen? Think about that. Not the natives, not the Aboriginal people, but the Caucasians got a British accent. They made sure they showed you that Crocodile Dundee had a British accent. Why? Because his family is from the criminals who got took by the Moors to Australia to work their mines in Australia. All right? One. So the natives in Australia started getting restless. Say, man, stop. Y'all got to stop bringing these people over here. Because they really keeping up a lot of trouble. So King George and them said, dang, man, we got too many criminals. We got to take them somewhere. He said, aha. We can take them to that land in America, the little plot that we copped from these natives, which was like what the 13 colonies is set up. And the natives was on that land, but they had copped just certain parts of the land strategically, going all the way back to Mansa Musa. They said, well, we're going to take some of these slaves over to America and let them work for the tobacco farms and the tea farms. So they started bringing Caucasians over here. This 1715. They were slaves for about 60 some years until about 1973, 1974. They got mad. And also, some of the natives, we didn't like the natives over here, but the Moors were trying to play us too. They were trying to play us out of our land. So we rose up and we helped these Caucasians. Don't forget about us, you Caucasians out there. Don't forget, we natives, we helped you to break free from these Moors. And then we had kids. Some of us, we had sympathy for you because how you was getting treated by these people. So some of them will run away from these Moorish British camps, some of these British Moorish camps, and will come amongst our camps, and we'll let them come amongst us. And sometime, if they got lucky, we'll let them marry amongst us. If they got lucky, but that was rare. That was real rare. But so what happens is eventually 1773 they get mad, start an uprising, and with the help of the Native Americans, and start what you call the American Revolution. It wasn't Independence Day is not about independence from the Great Britain. Not just about that. It's about the peoples, these Caucasians who were convicts, independent from Moors who were using them as slaves, from dark skin to trust skins who were using them as slaves, right? So the American Revolution is about them breaking free from King George III. Now, the Boston Tea Party, it was a lot of stuff behind that, but they was about them getting mad because these people were making money off of them, and then King George was taxing them extra because they were criminals. He was taxing them extra, so they called it extra taxation from King George. Was then what does this start? The red coats come over here. The red coats were Moors, dark-skinned Moors, the same niggas who George Washington called over here to guard the coastline, right? While they was jacking us over here, to make sure that the other Africans don't come over. Some other Africans that ain't down with these dirty Moors don't come over here and backdoor them and help us while they backdooring us. Yeah, George Washington backdoored us. And then he changed his name to George Washington. His name was George Augustine of Barbados. His people, his family, the original one, because Rod said the original one was dark, was a black dude. The original George Washington was black, like George Washington Carver, right? But his family, if you want to trace it back, you go pull up the house in Barbados, George Washington House in Barbados, where he lived there till he was 17. He wasn't even from America. He came to America when he signed when King George and them started when these beings, when they started setting up the police and policing and taking the land over here, they started hiring Caucasian mercenaries, and they started bringing them into the British Army. So George Washington supposedly was one of those who joined the army, him and his brother at 17, and worked his way up through, but we can't say too much, can't get too exclusive, but he supposedly had sugar in his shoes. He worked his way up through with the sugar in his shoes. We got to say it like that. He worked his way up with the sugar in his shoes, and he ended up becoming a general. He was not no president. He was a general, a British general in the army of King George III, Moor. This nigga worked for the Moors. King George Washington worked for Moors. Now, keep in mind, the Rothschilds, King George and them couldn't have been the dirty Moors. I don't think King George and them were the dirty Moors because the dirty Moors overthrew them. The dirty Moors overthrew King George. So I'm thinking that the British Empire was ran by the good Moors at first, the King George and them, right? And then they got overthrew. Now let me break down how they got overthrown. Let me break down how they got overthrew. In about around in the early 1800s, there was this being by the name of Amshire Rothschild. He had about 5 or 6 sons. But to cut to a long story short, one of the sons' name was Nathan Rothschild, who he sent out to take over the Bank of England. And keep in mind, Nathan Rothschild's the same guy we told you. They said that he could care less who make the laws, right? He care less who make the laws. He care less who their politicians are. If he control the economy and the banking system, he control the whole setup, pretty much to sum it up, right? So they put him on King George. His whole game was, I want to get King George Bank, the central bank of England, which was the main bank of the Moorish Empire, one of the main central banks of the Moorish Empire, and they whiffed. Because the dirty guys, they got their stuff set up in Switzerland. What you got? These are dark-skinned dirty guys. They put Nathan Rothschild on King George. He tinkered with him. He tried to him being a chess player. Yeah, he wanted to figure out how can I take this dude down. Aha! Let me cause a problem and create the solution. The problem was he ended up going to France and meeting up with this dude named Napoleon, who was a short, maybe 5 foot tall guy named Napoleon, right? He said, hey man, Napoleon, I need you to do a favor for me. And if you do this, I'm gonna make you one of the greatest rulers ever in the world's existence. I need you. They started promoting him, started putting him in the newspapers and the papers and stuff. And the media, the type of media they had back then, it wasn't on TV or nothing like that, but the type of media outlets and propaganda outlets they had back then, they were utilizing those propaganda outlets, like putting a poster up, stuff like that, to promote Napoleon as a de facto leader of France. Right? Then they said they paid him to build up his military. And the end goal was to get him to attack King George III. When he attacked King George III, King George would have to go to war against these guys. And he would need money to go to war. Thus, he would need somebody to loan him money, the bank. So this is how Nathan Rothschild got in. The Rothschilds got in through loaning King George money. And the way the system on the contract they set up, they knew that they set it up to where he never was gonna pay him back. And in the contract, the small stipulations, it said they were gonna take over his parliament, pretty much take over his whole government structure, and then from that point take over his take over his bank. And they eventually accomplished that by 1820, taking over the central bank of England. And then now they needed to overthrow the royal family and change the whole bloodline out. So in 1820, they sent people out to assassinate King George's whole bloodline, the Knights of Templar, and they were successful. It's only one dude that made it out, and he ended up dying of old age, and he changed his name several times. One of his names, and he came over here in America to hide out, and one of his names was Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was King George III's son, who kept on changing his name and was running from the Knights of Templar. They ended up catching up with Prince Edward and killed him. And all these guys were poisoned. King George was poisoned and died from arsenics. Somebody snuck in and poisoned him. Prince Edward was on the way to go see his daughter. There was supposed to be a baby that had been born that day. But he had in his mind that, hey, this can't be my baby because I've been gone for the last 3 years with the Navy sailing around the British Empire, making sure everything is straight. So I hadn't seen this lady in 3 years. One of my wives I haven't seen in 3 years. How is she pregnant? Who baby is she pregnant with? So as he was going to confront these people about the baby, at a camp, he ended up getting poisoned and killed by the Knights of Templar. This baby, kind of find out, was by his wife and a Daru king of a group of beings called Darus who live in the center of the earth in Germany. And her mother was from Germany. She was a mulatto from Germany. Queen Victoria's mother is a mulatto from Germany, from a white and the Bantu people mixing. And she ended up took advantage of, I gotta say it like that, by these actually these elites gave her to this dude to put a baby in her because their rules are invested in taking over the surface, right? So their rule leader impregnated this mulatto chick, and boom, she had a baby. The baby name was Queen Victoria, who was part Daru and part human. And what they did is they used her tried to say that she was Prince Edward's daughter. She wasn't Prince Edward's daughter. Prince Edward looked just like George Jefferson from the George Jefferson show. He was like a little bit lighter than me with the receding hairline, right? Because these are fall people were mixed with the Danaco. King George and them had the Danaco in them. Go pull up the real picture of King George, you'll see he had the Danaco in him. Because these are fall people were mixed with the Danaco. What happens is where was I? The overthrow of King George. 1920, boom, go speed up to 1937 is when they put Queen Victoria into the thing. And she was a Daru and with these Germans bloodline coming down for the Rothschilds and one of the 12 family bloodlines that they had, right? The Ashkenazis, right? So they even put her in they put from Queen Victoria. That's where you get Queen Elizabeth and all these people. They not the original bloodline. The original bloodline were Moors. They got usurped by the Rothschilds and the Darus, right? So now we speed up to this point. Once Queen Victoria take over, she started trying to reconquer some of the land that they had that was getting, because once King George and the family died, different territories that the native people on that land said, all right, we ain't got to deal with these Moors no more. They died off of their family. But little do they know, the Queen Victoria was going to come up to try to go back and take their land. So this thus leads to episodes of her going into Sudan and the wars with the Mahdi. The stories you hear about the Mahdi fighting against these British to get them out of Sudan, to get them out of ancient Kemet. And the Mahdi was successful. The Mahdi was successful. He was successful in beating these British and getting them out, still getting the land back from the Moors, back to the people that really was over that land at first. Yeah, the Mahdi, the Mahdi. You know, niggas want to sound all crisp and scholarly, so no, nigga, that ain't how you say it. Nigga, it's Mahdi. It's the Mahdi. Niggas gotta pucker, they tighten their ass cheeks up, and you gotta say it with the lip puckered and shit, man. Niggas kill me, bro. You know what I'm saying? Niggas kill me. You know? But you know what I'm talking about? The people who follow the master teacher, right? They know who the Mahdi is. The Mahdi is like the great-great-granddad of the master teacher. You go just put up the Mahdi in Sudan, you'll see what was going on. You see his flag and all that, what he was about. He's about getting his land back for his people from these Moors, from these Great Britain Empire, who now have been usurped by Caucasians, right? And then from Prince Edward, another Queen Victoria had a son named Prince Edwards, who had a son named Queen Elizabeth's dad. Queen Elizabeth's dad name was I'll think of his name in a minute, but so it was the two kings, boom, then Queen Elizabeth. So she's a Daru reptilian, man. And then not only did these same people during the time of that Queen Victoria married like different, like a reptilian humanoid beings to have kids with. So the reptilians got in there through the daddy side, that Queen Victoria, her husbands that she married, and the dude supposedly was a hybrid dude, like her cousin. He was like her cousin, like her third or second cousin, a hybrid reptilian. Yeah, but boom, that goes on. Boom, that goes on. Eventually. So I've been on the hour damn already, so I didn't really cut it though. But I just wanted to let me see, make sure I cover this part. I might come back for a part 2 tomorrow, like earlier class, to talk more on this, and then tomorrow night, we're gonna have like 3 classes tomorrow. I'm gonna try to do probably If I don't get, I might do like a part 2 to this, and then I might do the Anarchy Chronicles Part 11, and then at Raw we're gonna have Raw at 8:30. So at 6:30 I might do the Chronicles in 11, and at probably like 9 or 10 if I'm free today. I might tomorrow I might do the early class, but tomorrow for sure we're gonna be on with Raw at 6:30 tomorrow night. Raw Hayes at 6:30 tomorrow night. But what else I wanted to say about this before I get out of here? Because all this is tying in what they study at Harvard and Yale. They know the truth. They know the truth about the history, and they've joined secret societies like the Skull and Bones at Harvard and Yale to not put this truth out, to keep this as a secret. And while they be rich and wealthy and they know the truth and they look at us, and look, I met one of these guys, right? And I talked with him, and he saw he saw how intelligent I was. And he was saying, "Damn, this young cat, he know." But he look, it's stuff that when I talked to this guy, it's stuff that I didn't know at that time, and I was making certain statements. And the dude, when I would make those statements, like he was saying, "Why do you want to name yourself after people who stole your land?" And he was talking about the Moors, because I was calling myself Mustafa El Bey, right? But I got a bigger perspective than what he got on it now. But at that time, I didn't have the perspective on it like I did now. He was saying, "Why you want to name yourself after these people that stole your land?" And I was thinking about it. What this nigga talking about? I thought he was really trying to play me, man. Like he trying to play us. Like, what the fuck he saying? Why you want to name your guys self after the guys that stole your land? And he talking about that he knew this dude from Harvard, he knew that we was the natives. And he saying that these Moors is the ones that came and stole y'all land, right? These dirty Moors. That's what he was telling me back then. But he didn't come out and straight and say that. It's like he kept on he dangling. He didn't even keep dangling on the screen. He only told me that much, and just then he didn't want to tell me nothing else. It's like I could lead you. I could tell you one piece, a clue, and you had to go from that part because I swore oath not to tell everything. So I can only tell you that part, that the dudes that you trying to name yourself after, they're the ones that robbed you. And now when I met Rod, even before I met Rod, I met Dolo, the king of the Moors. Dolo was the first one I heard talking about the dirty Moors. But he ain't really frang him. He was franging him a little bit, but he ain't frang him like Rod did. Right? So I had knew about the dirty Moors. I was already talking about him. Go back and get my before I even met Rod. On the it's called The Students of Dr. Malachi Z. York, Majesties of America, Part 1. I talking about dirty Moors up in there. I call them morons. Right? I still couldn't frang him. Like Rod Hayes, when I learned from Rod Hayes. Now I can really I can put it all together, man. It's like a puzzle. It's like a big picture to me now. Because when Rod gave me his piece, when I kept to gain Rod perspective on Enlil and these dark skinned niggas, man, it all was just blew up like what that dude had told me. I said, that dude wasn't trying to play me. That dude was trying to tell me the niggas that did us look like us. He was trying to tell me that back then. But Rod came and really made it clear. And like I say, Rod said that he ain't really got nothing else to talk about no more. He said that he already taught everything on the classes that we got. Now the reason why he coming on tomorrow night 8:30 is for a question and answer to see where y'all level at, where your head is at on the questions, because he'll know while you're asking certain types of questions, he'll know how much information that y'all have gained from him based on the questions that you ask now. But if y'all still asking the same type of questions that he already answered 10,000 times over, he's saying that y'all still behind on it. You need to go back and watch all them tapes again. So he looking forward to tomorrow to see what type of the intellectual questions that people can answer based on the information that we already put out. It said Noah was the first. He said Noah was the first what? Noah also had two other sons. Yeah, Noah actually had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They were triplets. Then he had another son that didn't even get in that joined the niggas that was saying that he was crazy. Like it was a group of when Noah was building this boat in the middle of the desert or this submarine. People were saying that he was crazy. The fish tune, right? His son, he had a son by another lady named Wala. I think I said Wala. I think I said her name right. Raya. And he had a son named Raya, who was his oldest son, the first son that he had by a handmaid. And it was his oldest son. He didn't even get on a ship with him because he said that his daddy was crazy. He had, matter of fact, we're gonna break. I'm not gonna spoil that story because that's actually I'm gonna actually tell that storyline tomorrow on the Chronicles of the Anarchies Part 11 on the pole shift. I'm actually gonna break that story down. Out of the sons, Noah had sons. The people who got on the ship with Noah, like his brother, his friend, his the two of his homeboys, his brother, his wives. He had like 2-3 wives. So we're gonna break down who all got on the ship with him. Right? Yeah, he died in the flood. His brother, yeah, I mean his son, his older son that said he was crazy. He said, "Man, Dad's crazy. He started making fun of him just like the rest of the niggas was, and he drowned. He died. Raya drowned in the flood. They don't talk about him in the Bible though. They don't talk about him in the Bible, but Malachi talk about him in the Holy Tablets. What else we wanted to say to you before we got out of here today, man? Because we in our sleeping clothes, man. We're finna ready to lay down and go to sleep. I think that's probably pretty much it, man. I think we shared everything we want to share with you. Like I said, we'll come back on part 2 and tie more in together on as far as how. But then it's when you sum it up, okay? When you sum it up. The tribe of Shabazz came over to America through the Bering Strait. And some of them even sailed over here through Mansa Musa now. The Melodian Moors. The Mandingos. The Mandingos come over here who are Moors, who are tribe of Shabazz. And they mix in with the Washita. After the Washita, see, the Washita are Moors. Why? Because they are Armaks mixed with Moors. They created the Washita. The Washita are created by the tribe of Shabazz mixing in with Armaks. And then you got another mix, because the Washita really a mixture. They really, because Hoshin, the Chinese came over and mixed in with these people too. So some Washita can have a Chinese features. Some Washita have white features, due to the story that I told you about these Caucasians escaping from the Moors and coming to our plantations, and we helping them out. But they switched the story around to you and told you that the niggas were picking cotton. The niggas that were picking cotton wasn't slaves. They were working on them plantations and getting paid a paycheck, just like working on Walmart. Walmart is your modern day cotton picking place right now. All you people go to plantations right now and pick cotton. You might not say you picking cotton, but it's similar. It's you go, you work, you bust your ass, they pay you every week. That's the same thing that Nubians were doing. Nubians, because I'm gonna tell you, go back and watch the Patriot movie again, where they say death to King George. And the niggas, when the British come, these Caucasian British or these Moors come, the Moors said to that one dude that was working on a plantation picking cotton, he said, if y'all come fight, the British general told them, the people that they thought they were slaves. He said, if y'all come work for King George, we'll free y'all from being slaves. The dude looked up at him like he was crazy. He said, man, we ain't no slaves. We just work here. We just work here, man. We not no slaves. We work here. So that they turned the people that worked on the plantations just like a job, and they told you them niggas was slaves. And yeah, they was the real slaves. To hide this story right here, to hide this fact that Dame Calloway point out in his book, to hide that fact, right? That's the game. It's keep us disorganized, keep us like going over here and over there, looking there, and the shit right there in our face. Like this right here. Like I'm like this right here. Where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? Man, I'm looking for my glasses everywhere. Baby, you see my glasses? Hey, baby, your glasses on your head. That's how the information is. The information is right on our damn forehead, right in our face, right in front of us. And they telling us we looking all over here and all over there and all under there. And that shit is right there on your damn head the whole damn time, bro. That's the game. So we out, man. We've been on long enough. We've been like an hour and 30. So man, we love y'all. We're gonna be back tomorrow. Like I say, Raw gonna be on tomorrow. We finna get back rolling, but I can't wait to get my podcast equipment and my new laptop. It's definitely gonna be. I'm gonna be on that joint like it's going out of style, man. I'm telling you. I'm gonna have the explosion in the background, the crowd joint where you can hit the button and go, the round and all that, man. It's just gonna be lit. Hey, shout out sun, moon, baby, stars. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody. We about to get out. Islam, peace. Hotep, Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Islam, right? Ashug, divine love throughout the boundless universe to all. Wadu.